Good evening and welcome to episode 29 of the Coaches Show. I'm Mike Bianca, coach of the New Orleans Hurricanes, and with me as always is my co-host and good friend, Ryan Gray, coach of AC Diesel. Tonight, we will discuss the NXL Europe Portugal Invitational, the absolute dominance of the Tauntauns, and the surprise winner, Team Scalp. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Maxed Sportswear. For all your custom paintball goods, get Maxed. Man, what an event. Holy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting to talk about the dominance and really how dominant the Tauntauns were, and then have a different winner.
But see, that's the thing. I don't think people really realize, and maybe they have or maybe they don't, but if you go and you look at the Tauntauns, they mercied every match in the prelims, they mercied the quarters, and they mercied the semis. It didn't matter who was in front of them. And then here comes Scalp. And Scalp says, not today.
And the Tauntauns, not only through the preliminary rounds, mercy ruled everybody, but I think they only lost the first point of the tournament, and that's it. They lost 1 point and then won every other match by mercy rule. 5-0, 5-0, 5-0.
That's absolutely right. 5-0 in the quarters. I believe it was 7-2. And so 3 points. They lost 3 points all the way through the semis, and that was it.
I was just speaking about just
crazy
the prelims, right? Like the incredibly dominant.
Absolutely right.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about the Tauntauns, so let's move on to some other things. So let's talk first about some of the surprises in a good way, right? So we talked a little bit last week about Ron Holt Dynamite. I kind of mentioned, I know these kids are going to be good. They're going to get it together. We just don't know when. Well, now we do. We know when, right. And it's now, right? So Ron Holt Dynamite comes out, wins their pool in the preliminary rounds, goes on, takes 4th place in the event. So congratulations to those kids. I know they've been working really hard. Some others. Who did you think was another kind of surprise?
Well, when it came to, you and I picked very similar, right? I think we both picked the Tauntauns and the Luckies. We both picked, I picked Joy Division, and I think I picked Joy Division and I believe Warsaw, Ranger Warsaw. So there was a surprise. But I also picked Ron Holt Dynamite as my wild card. So good job, gentlemen. Scalp. It wasn't a surprise. We both picked Scalp and FSU, I believe. But Scalp was pretty impressive. I mean, then of course Carnage was a little bit of a surprise. Breakout Spa, coached by our friend Kevin from Dynasty, did really well. Arena Pilsen, we both picked both of them. So no big surprises other than the outstanding performance of Dynamite, in my opinion, and then the subpar performances from certain teams that we expected more from.
Well, I thought ALA Warsaw, for me, a new team, right, coming in and makes the cut in their first event. That was another surprise for me. I did not expect them to do that. But, good on them. They did well. Section kind of did what I thought Section would do. In fact, I thought Section might finish a little bit lower. But again, if we're going to talk about kind of the things that were surprising in a not so good way, we kind of thought it would take Shock a little bit to get it together, right? This is their first event with that group made up of some of the LVL guys. And then I think there were a couple of guys from New York Wrecking Crew. So they're just kind of trying to get it put together. I was a little shocked they didn't make the cut. I picked them to make to be a wild card. They did not. So I was a little surprised that they didn't make the cut. And then kind of another big surprise for me, and you mentioned them, was Carnage. I think the loss of the 2 big players that they lost this offseason, I didn't think it would be as painful as it was, but obviously it is. Only winning 1 match, losing by mercy rule 2 different times, and then losing by 1 to FSU. So I was a little surprised that Carnage didn't do as well. I thought they would certainly fare a little better. So, what about some players? Who did you see that stood out player wise?
No, to me, I think it's painfully obvious. the most the most obvious one to me, of course, was Berdnikov, playing for Team Scalp. I mean, he was quite literally, when you say one man wrecking ball, I don't think you could have put on a better example of a one man wrecking ball in paintball than that Russian just tearing through teams. Uh, Now we've got to give credit where credit is due. He's not able to do that without the four guys next to him, but he was
Sure.
just, it was absolutely fantastic to watch. It really was. I mean, it was a freak show in a way when you think about it. It was a master class in individual performance and or a specialty, right? I mean, they had him playing in that snake and he was just dominant there. Dominant.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Ryan Hoskinson playing with Bad Boys was another one. I watched him. He had several really strong points, and also the way Black Red Studios did the film. It was, you could really see what was kind of happening on the Snake side. It was a little more challenging to see what was going on the Dorito side. So I think because of that, maybe Snake players are going to really stick out to us because that's where the majority of the filming was done. Yeah, I thought Ryan played really well. I thought Axel, of course, played really well. Um, you know, there were a few times that I saw Smoltrov kind of dip into the Snake in the second. He did really well. Yeah, so it was interesting that the field played a lot different in Europe than it did in America. That's one of the big thing I noticed, and I think some of that had to do with turf, right? Because they were on turf and the guys could slide underneath lanes, whether it was going out to that first Dorito or going into the Snake off the break, they could dive so early, really at the tower and slide all the way across into the Snake. I think the turf certainly had an impact there.
You bring up an excellent point, and I actually agree. I remember watching this going, they've got beautiful weather, they're on turf. What's that going to translate as? And it really did show how I felt that the field played similar in the fact that you want to do that center punch with that snake side presence and steal points from the D side when you were given the opportunity. It's still, that element was still there, but there you saw a lot more, you know, bang bang, over there. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the turf and the good weather had everything to do with that.
Yeah, totally. Well, so when I mentioned, I thought that these teams would play a ton of points, right?
Yeah.
A couple things I didn't consider, and we were both pretty off on this. And there was an interesting anomaly too that I want to talk about that happened in Europe that you really don't see in America. So their mercy rule is a spread of 5, right? Where in America it's 6, so that makes a little bit of a difference in the number of points played, right? 18%. Right. And then the other thing is that there seems to be a pretty big disparity between the top and the bottom. Whereas in America, we don't have that anymore. The games are much more, they're not just, I don't want to say just closer, but there's a lot of punching, right? There's a lot of punches being thrown kind of back and forth. Whereas again, we talked about the Tauntauns, but then there were 5 other instances where teams got mercy ruled at this event, which of course brings the point margin and point totals played way down, right? So
right.
Through the preliminary rounds, the average number of points played, and do you remember what we said the number of points played were going to be?
Yes, you had picked on average 11, and I had picked an average of 8.5.
Right.
And I believe it ended up. Go ahead, do the big reveal. We were both
6.07. So
right,
lower,
and it was 6.18 in America.
Correct.
Wasn't it?
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
So
less points played. The interesting thing that happened is there were actually more points played per game on Sunday.
Isn't that incredible? I
It went up to
love this sport.
6.18. Yeah, it went up to
That's right.
6.18.
There it
So
is.
kind of interesting that teams played more points, right? Here's what really happened, though. I want to be clear. They didn't necessarily play more points. What really happened is you had less mercy rules. That's what happened, right? You had more teams kind of battling it out. There was an 11-point match, but all the rest
Because
of them were
math.
like 5. So that 11-point match is the anomaly, right? It threw
Right.
everything off.
Threw everything
The
off.
other ones are 5 and 4 and 6. And then there was another one that was 9, right? But the majority of the matches were still really low scoring. Yeah, the
But
11
see, I think
throws.
you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the 11 definitely throws it way off, right?
It does.
Throws it
Remove the
way off.
11 and we're going to drop. But it's I want to get back to that topic you were, that disparity between the top teams in the prelims and the bottom teams in the prelims. I mean, you're right. It was significant. And then to your point, on Sunday, now your top teams are playing each other, and hence the
Right.
higher point margin score. So, we don't see that. Well, we haven't seen it yet this year. We've shown a big shift in America for that, right? 6 new teams on Sunday in Texas. But I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if this is our first event for the year. I'm looking forward to seeing the next event and see if that stays that way. What kind of adaptation are we going to see? But I remember thinking when you and I were first talking about the points, and I was like, well, yes, the limited paint is probably going to increase aggression.
Right.
But at the same time, being familiar with European style of play, I thought, well, on this layout, it might not. And boy, I think we were both kind of, whereas we thought that aggression would be there, or I thought, well, the aggression might slow down because of the layout and this, that, and the other, and we don't like to hold lanes and all these different things. It was way lower than I thought. We'd at least see a jump. We'd at least see a jump in that number, and we just didn't. It was incredible to watch.
But I do think it increased aggression because, like, if you go back and watch some of these matches, like the Tauntauns played at a very fast pace, really fast pace, right? So they just happened to be mercy ruling the team they were playing. So it was really quick.
Right.
There just wasn't an opportunity for the other team. I shouldn't say that. There were plenty of opportunities for the other teams to score points. They just didn't. Just the Tauntauns played so well. So that brought everything way down.
Yeah.
Way down.
100%.
I mean, again, 6, 5, 5, 5, 5. That's their point totals, right? So, they brought everything way down. And then again, so lucky 15s, 5-1, 5-1, 3-2, 0-5, right? To the
Right.
Tauntaun. Dynamite played really close matches, but only played 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, and then 8 points, right? So again, the majority, like 6 was the number. It just was the magic number. So
it really was
kind of interesting. Droogs.
You can
I was trying to
just
see
pull up
like
the thing
who took.
Yeah, it was Droogs. If you're talking about last.
Yeah.
Droogs got. But here's the thing: they only got mercied twice, right? And then they lost by 4, and then lost by 3. So
Yeah. Another kind of interesting thing I saw was teams making the cut. So a team made the cut with a negative margin.
I knew you were going to bring this up. That would be Ala Warsaw, right?
Yeah, right. So that's just so rare, right? For a team to make a Sunday cut with a negative margin.
Right. Especially when you think about not only the team making the cut with a negative margin, but the next lowest margin to make the cut, right? There was actually, I think the 15s had a 1 average, but everybody else, the minimum was 1.2 or higher. So never mind. I thought I was going to make a significant point, and I realized I didn't. So.
Yeah. So the number 9 team, which was the top wild card seed, was Bad Boys at 1.25. Right. So That's normal, right? Like when you think about even in America, the majority, if you're not 0.5, 0.75, you're probably out, right? If you get below that, you're more than likely out of the event. But again, I think because of the disparity, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams, of course, because one made it on, all with negative margin. So I think there's a pretty decent gap, like I said, between the top and the bottom there. But we'll see, right? We'll see. Because I do think, and Brandon, great question. That's exactly what I was about to bring up. I do think you'll see some of these kind of middle of the pack teams as the season progresses get better, right? I think Shock will get better. I think they'll get it together, and they've got an opportunity. Carnage is another team that I'm going to continue to talk about, and I think until they make me stop talking about them, because they keep proving me wrong and don't play well. But I think Carnage will get it together and play better. I think Bad Boys have an opportunity to continue to improve over the year. The other ones are still a question mark for me. Ranger Warsaw, I think underperformed tremendously, picking up a bunch of the Verst guys, and who again were the third best team in Europe last year. So I expected them to do much better. It was a little disappointing to see kind of their performance, not just their performance, but I watched a few of their matches again, and just really disappointing. Austin Notorious played well. Austin FSU played well. And that's a hodgepodge of guys. You've got some of the guys from Verst. You've got some guys from Russia. You've got some guys from Mexico and a couple of guys from America. I mean, literally, you have a team speaking 4 different languages. They're another team that I think could, as the season goes on, continue to get better and better and better. So pretty excited for, event 2 and kind of see where it goes. Really quickly, too, I want to touch on semi-pro and WNXL. We'll start with the WNXL. Belladonna taking first place, Dracana second, Karma third, HBIW is fourth. Belladonna was really good. I don't know if you watched that finals match. They were really, really good. A lot of passion, played really, really good. When I watch these events, these are the ones where I'm like, gosh, I wish we could play this layout on turf. Right? I love grass. I always would prefer to play on grass, but with this specific layout, I think turf is the move, right? I think watching them get to play on it was, and when we jump into the game breakdown here in a few minutes, between Scalp and Tauntauns, you're going to watch Axel and Malloy, who are 2 of absolutely the best in the world at this. You're going to watch them kind of put on a clinic on how to play the snake on turf. They're literally sliding on their bottle. It's really impressive to see how fast they go. And then in semi-pro, and I'm just going to say ballistics because I can't say the second part of his Göttingen. Not even going to try. German. So ballistics, So German team, we practiced against them last year when I was coaching FSU in the Netherlands. I got to meet the team captain, Dustin. He is a fantastic young man, great player, really mobile, moves around well, and has been busting his ass this offseason. He dropped like 40 pounds. I have been watching him do drills online. So really hard work, has been putting in the effort, and got to take home the win, right? The other thing I want to mention is they had Pasternak, right, who plays with Austin Notorious here in the States, and was also from Verst last year. Great player, really strong, 1 and 2 in the snake. So exciting to see them get that win, and excited too to see what they can kind of put together for the rest of the season.
That'd be interesting.
Christian says turf would be a warm welcome after what we had in the Dallas event. Yeah, touche. It's a good point.
You're not wrong, And here's the thing: even with that turf, because we do this down at LAX when we have a heavy rain, you can take that turf and you can literally sweep the water off. So it doesn't matter how much it rains.
And if the turf is laid like I don't want to say correctly, but if it's laid within the last 2 years, usually the water just runs right through it. There's no puddles. It just
Right
kind of
through it.
goes right through the rock and sand, and you don't even know that it's there. So pretty great.
Right.
All right. I think it's time to move on to the match.
Progress. Yes.
So
All right.
if there's any,
I'm sorry, I was catching.
yeah, and if there's any part of this you guys want us to stop and kind of talk about, post your questions in the chat. We'll certainly do that. To really, the camera angles aren't amazing, but you get a pretty good view of what's happening, and we'll kind of break it down as it occurs. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys listened to the commentary this weekend. I learned a few new words. 5x5 is a term I learned. Not heard that one before. So that was interesting. But these two guys did most of the commentating all weekend. They had a few guests come up. And this was free and is still on Major League Paintball YouTube right here where you're watching. So you're welcome to go back and watch all the matches. It's really, really good. So
what's incredible to me is this is not their first language, and they did as well as they did. So I can't even imagine. So matter of fact, to me they were a lot. They were a lot of the entertainment as well, right? As an American watching it, when they'd get excited or they'd see a great play or something like that, it was so fun to watch that.
Yeah, so breaking out here into point one.
So this point one is interesting to me because Scalp's going to take the center immediately and then delay to the snake, while the Tauntauns will take the snake immediately and delay to the center. So now it's interesting what the center player for Scalp does, because someone from Scalp sees the late fill from the Tauntauns. Probably the home player is my guess. He's going to see this Tauntauns player exit the Dorito side tower and enter the center. It has to be home. Because
it's so funny. Yeah, I froze right here because of that.
Right.
Because of what he's about to do.
It has to be home because the Snake One is not going to be able to see that move. The Snakeside Tower is not going to be able to see that move. Well, Snakeside Tower could if he's tall. But I really do believe that it is the home who is looking D side, sees the flash as the guy enters it. Once he does this, once it gets communicated to that Scalp center player, man, you want to talk about a ballsy move. He makes a very ballsy move, well thought out. Well, it's been done before. You know he's practiced this before. As a coach, the only thing I was just going to say, as a coach, the only thing I change is don't hit the bunker and don't miss your shot.
I was going to say here, I thought a lot of Scalp because they did not really show a lot of respect to the Tauntauns guns off the break in some of the space they took. Right. Mm-hmm. And kind of the way we started this conversation, this is a great example of what I was talking about. This guy's able to look where he's diving, how far away from that Dorito he's able to start his dive, where he can literally go right underneath that stream.
Well, also keep in mind, and I'm not sure if you saw this, but I believe I talked to it a little bit with Kyle and a couple of your guys at our practice, but there's a blind spot as you dive into, if you were to dive at the center of that Dorito, right? Not behind it,
yep.
But if you dive at the center of it, nobody can see you. You probably noticed I did that a couple of times. I'd run a guy up straight at it and then run him up and use that Dorito side can and then cut across.
Yeah.
No one sees you. So lots of blind spots. Well, a blind spot there. But anyway, I love this. So now the Tauntauns players entered the center. Scalp gets the call. He goes in. And this is beautiful. He just misses the shot and then goes back. He realizes, I missed the shot. I'm going to go back. But here's the beauty of it. He goes back and then sets a trap. I love it. At this point, it becomes interesting because Scalp, in my opinion, is in slightly better field position because of the Dorito 1 presence, right? So they've got Dorito 1 presence over there. Him being there basically becomes the force multiplier for his center player, right? Unfortunately, that happens, what we just saw. They let the Tauntauns get wide and match them in Dorito 1. The beauty of this from the Tauntauns, in my opinion, is when that home fills into the can. No one from scalp, if you look at their positioning, no one from scalp saw the can take the Dorito 1. So therefore, when the home takes the can, they're still thinking that that could be the widest player. But that's when Berdnikov right here, that's what I think he's doing. He improves his position here. And it looks to me as if he's hunting for the Tauntaun center player or confirming no Dorito 1. Now, the two centers just trade right there, right?
I backed it up because I just want to show. Yeah, I just wanted to show like the timing of this. You know, they're playing heads up here. You know, he literally he goes inside for just a moment, right?
Right.
Puts his gun inside for just a moment, and here he goes.
Now look at that layout. Did anyone? No one would have seen that Dorito fill. No one. Now Berdnikov gets in here. I can't tell if he's hunting for that center player who he knows is there, or he's trying to confirm something about Dorito 1. But as he starts to back up there, it's like he's looking for, and then the trade happens. He sees the trade happen and decides, okay, I'm going to go back in here. It looks like he's looking for that Dorito still, though. Anyway, it doesn't matter because, you know, after the trade in the center, both teams are mirrored, save for Berdnikov. You know, he's in position to do damage. So Axel improves his position and begins putting pressure on the scalp's D side can here.
I loved that, Phil, by the way, too. Him coming up and doubling in the snake. I thought the only thing that might have made that a little better is to release into the middle. But next to it, this is fantastic.
No, it really
and that
is.
battle right here.
Yes. This is, I got to be honest, not going to lie. I love this snap exchange between him and Axel. It was very cool to see. Great read by the Tauntauns here to fill that corner once he lost Axel, though. He sees Axel die. Boom, feeds it over. And I do like the second. I was going to ask you your thought. Go ahead and pause it here real quick. I was going to ask your thought on double feeding that snake. The idea of that, if not taking the center, I feel like doubling that snake, the advantage, especially when you have Berdnikov on the 1 and he already owns the 50, he can focus on either the cross field kill or he can stay committed to the wire. I think when you're at the 50 here, you're looking for the cross field kills and you're protecting the wire from the 1. Plus from the 1, you can also control that highway move.
But where he is right now, there's a lot of bounce, especially where the guy is in the can. You have the bounce off the pin. The guy can go from the can to the Dorito corner. Now he's got it off the wedge. This guy who's, you know, once you get up into that snake 4 and 5 really, and 3, there's so many bounce shots coming into there. I like that guy down on the wire. And why I said the center, I like the center is if he comes up to the center instead of coming here, if he comes up to this side of the wedge and he keeps that guy from getting out. So Malloy wins this exchange. Here's the roll of the dice. Malloy wins this exchange. He now traps that guy from being able to get out. Right. Malloy loses that exchange. He's a dead man.
Absolutely.
Right. Because now you give Axel the whole snake.
Which is why the snake filter to me is the low probability, or rather the higher probability success. Because, okay, let's say Berdnikov loses this. All right. Well, we haven't lost the snake completely. We're have a snake presence.
Yeah.
So we're okay. That crazy snap shooting though. I mean, honestly, once he wins this though, which is beautiful, the Tauntaun fills to the corner. By the way, when the Tauntaun decides to feed the snake, I'm almost positive it's the snake 1 behind Berdnikov that shoots him. Watch how he gets on the wire and goes down the tape here. Right there, he's shooting, and he catches him, I think. The only other one would have been a blind shot from the Dorito 1.
Yeah,
I just don't see that happening. I almost feel like there it is. Berdnikov does a crazy shot here, crazy snapshot here. When he pops the top, it's insane.
This shot is really dirty.
It's real. That's a good way of putting it. It is dirty. coming up right here. He's just going to pop it top real quick, and he lands the first ball. Bap. Bye-bye.
This one.
Yep.
Yeah, that one.
That was it. And then the rest is Johnny's your uncle. They close out. It's only the Dorito one left. Well done.
Man, he's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is really good.
Now, point two, it gets interesting. Well, as you're going to see, both teams are going to take the snake on the break because, well, why not? I believe, if I recall, Scalp gets guns up, right? Trying by doubling home. It doesn't pay off. They don't get any. We see another 5-on-5 here.
Well, and what I really like about how Malloy plays this is because he recognized in the 2 points prior that if you put Axel away, Axel goes inside. All right. Sorry, inside. The 2 times early. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He goes inside.
Yes. Bernikov plays this so well. Tauntaun strike first, eliminating the snakeside tower, but Bernikov isn't contested by Axel. So I was just going to say the same thing. He takes ground, and at the same time that he eliminates, I mean, it's just, watch this. The same time he eliminates this Dorito side can, so he's going to get in here to this cake. He's going to pop up. The same time he shoots that can, his teammate will clear through the center diamond there and take Tauntaun's center presence. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Well done. Drops the hammer there.
Somebody was saying something about like it was Barytnikov was a one-man wrecking crew or something, and I was like, I disagree. Like his teammates did a great job playing off of his chaos. Like
they really do, because
they capitalized well.
But back it up, because there's another portion to this. So after the guy clears through and drops the hammer on the center guy, back it up just a little bit. Now he baits. He sets the trap for the Dorito 1. Watches the Dorito 1 bites almost immediately. Dorito 1 bites him. Once he kills him, what does he do? He immediately wraps the outside of that brick. He knows the layout. He knows the situation. Of course, he gets picked up by Axel. But at this point, a smart concession is it's a 4-on-2 advantage Scalp. It's a matter of time, and they get the concession. So, well executed point. That's Malloy knowing the tendencies of Axel right there, which starts things off, which starts the domino effect.
He's really good. Malloy was so talented. I mean, he's just so intelligent.
And that intelligence, it rubs off on your teammates. This is a well played point by both teams, actually. We get another great this point, I think, was really well executed by the Tauntauns. We get a great epic snap exchange between Axel and Bernikov again. Spoiler alert, Axel's going to win this one. And honestly, it's Axel winning that exchange that, in my opinion, ultimately leads to the Tauntauns putting a point on the board. Because
totally agree.
Yep. The Tauntauns close really well here, and it starts with the elimination of Malloy, right? Snakeside Tower for the Tauntauns doesn't let Izmir spread once he kills Malloy, right?
No, that's what I was going to say.
Snake or to the corner.
And then you have this now a 2-man operation out here, basically playing this 2-on-1, kind of a 2-on-2. This guy can be a little helpful through really this gap and a little bit of this gap, but he can't play inside of this guy's gun, right? So this 2-man operation is great.
Yeah, but they're going to lose that Dorito, the first Dorito, right?
Yeah.
And so, but this is where the close comes. Once they get Malloy, the Snakeside Tower behind Axel doesn't let the Scout Snakeside Tower player spread to the corner, allowing Axel to have the whole snake to himself. The beauty of it, though, the Tauntaun's island on the Dorito side takes that forward Dorito, like when he gets out there, he shuts down that forward progress by Scalp, in Dorito 2, while Axel controls everything in between. So you've got, I mean, it's just a great close. This is knowing your layout, because watch, he's going to filter in eventually up into that that Dorito side can, right? So Axel's
Yeah,
going
and
to win
so
that
Axel has
exchange.
now won the battle.
He's won the battle. Now he's going to come up. He's going to wrap and get a kill on the can. Now pay attention. Now notice how the two towers, and there's the move to the Dorito side tower 10. He's going to back up, and all he's going to do is just maintain the Dorito there and push him into Axel's gun. So Axel gets the elimination on the can. The Dorito's now been eliminated. And now this guy can close out from the Dorito side. Axel pushes him into the other gun. There it is.
Yeah,
great close.
Solid close.
Mm-hmm. And that's just a really good example of knowing your field layout. Obviously, we weren't there live. I couldn't hear it. I couldn't see it, but you can tell the crossfield comms were probably on point because of the way the tauntauns were just like Scalp on the previous point, right? You can tell the crossfield comms are happening. They know the situation. They know where the bodies are, and they know the layout very, very well.
Yeah, even if you were there, you wouldn't have understood what they were saying.
But I would have deduced what they were saying. Point 4, still just shy of 8 minutes on the clock. Another great point. I'll shut up and let you talk through this one.
No, you're good. Like this is the grinder, right? This point is just goes on and on and on, but like, there's a lot happening inside of the point. Again, you end up with this crazy heads up. There's literally a game inside the game here with these two kind of going back and forth at each other. What I found interesting, though, is how much Axel respected Malloy. Even when Malloy went away there, he could have come all the way up. And he stops.
Right. And you saw in the first point where Malloy did the exact opposite against Axel. Once he didn't think Axel was contesting him, he just took ground.
Yeah.
But this quite literally is a game within a game. You're watching the game between the Snake players, and then everybody else is playing paintball.
Yeah, and I love this middle, right? I love what they've done here because they're kind of trying to bait him to come up. And that might have been why Axel kind of held off, but I don't know. I think when you get opportunities, you take them.
Right, but if that's the case, if they're trying to bait him to come up, then his center player didn't get the memo. Right?
Right.
Because he's doing
he like looked at it. Yeah, he looked at it and then immediately went to the low wrap.
Mm-hmm. All right, so look at this, though. If we can pause it for a minute. So, in my opinion, this is such a great setup. You know, you've got the centers now contesting Malloy, right? Axel's, contesting Malloy. Quite literally. Now, the Dorito side can for Scalp has to respect. He doesn't know what that center's doing. He has no idea what that center's doing. But notice how the Snake side tower is probably shooting a blind now. Because he's not wrapping. My guess is he's probably shooting a blind into the gap past that can.
Here.
Now that he sees his center player looking inside. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. I don't know if anyone. I'm checking the chats.
That's quiet tonight.
Okay. It is. But so let's let this play out. And it gets quite interesting here. So right there, Malloy, I thought shot him.
I did too.
2 refs run in. calling for a paint check. You even see Malloy start shaking his head, like he's pointing, like he's like, what's going on? Why is that guy not eliminated? So he gets a second life here, and with that second life, he makes it worth it. Smart play by Scalp to get out to that corner, but quite literally, now that he's out there, he's uncontested all the way to the Dorito 3. He really is, based off this setup. Of course, he has to respect the center player, doesn't know where he's at. You've got the Snake 1 playing tall over behind Malloy.
I thought it was his. Yeah, I thought he had the ball. Yeah.
He had the ball. Center player gets bounced there. Not center player, I'm sorry. The Snake 1 behind Malloy gets bounced. But when he dies, I think that's when. So now we're starting to get production out of the Dorito side from Scalp. But once this Snake 1 behind Malloy dies, it frees everybody else up now. This was a well-played maneuver here through the center. Except for the fact that why would you forget about Malloy being there?
I don't know if maybe he thought Malloy. Yeah, I thought maybe he thought Malloy backed up, and like there was only one guy in the Snake. I just couldn't think of another reason he would just throw his body away.
It's got to be it because of the Snake 1 presence, right? He thinks that Malloy's backed up. They're up by 1. The clock's burning off. He thinks that Malloy went to Snake 1, backed up to burn clock. So he turns his back to him, hoping to get the Dorito. Instead, he gets it ripped out, and that's all it needed. So
yeah, now we end up in this
smart heads up play by Axel too.
And now we end up in this crazy one-on-one that goes for a really long time. If you're in a one-on-one, rarely do you want to go to the Snake, but on this layout, I've seen several one-on-ones won out of the Snake. Cody Mikowski on our team did it. Mouse almost pulled off a 2-on-1 in the Tampa Bay game. Like, it's interesting. Guys are winning one-on-ones out of the Snake. And I should say winning. He doesn't shoot the guy. As you watch this thing kind of unfold, he meticulously works his way over to the buzzer. And the poor kid on Scalp should have just sat there and hammered the outside of the home here in a second, and doesn't. And I'll point that out when he gets there. But you could even see there for a second he put his gun down, right?
He did. Mm-hmm. I think the reason why a field layout like this, why players are obviously when you're in a one-on-one, you're not going to go, lower abdominal area in the dirt, right? We're not going to go Richard in the dirt and take our eyes off our opponent. But you're able to use those giant center bunkers, these large towers and cans, when your opponent's on the Dorito side, you're essentially using them as a bunker to block them out. So that's why most of your guys who are winning from over there, they can stay on their feet. They can use it as an access point, just like this gentleman did, to get clever up here. And you're absolutely right. This guy doesn't even have to fight him. He just needs to be pounding that area with
this side. Yeah, and he baits him, right? He goes and plays the other side, invites the guy to come to the other side, and he falls for it here in a second.
He falls for it.
He goes to the other side. Yep. And he dips right in. Oh, he's out of paint.
And time was on the Tauntaun side in this case. I thought he played it well. He was very patient. Hey, look, I still got 2 minutes on the clock. I'm good. I'm about to win this point as long as I don't screw up.
Yeah, we can go play in overtime. We're fine.
Yeah, I like how he plays this. He doesn't force it. He ensures that he gets the buzzer.
Again, I love the bait. He just continues to stay on that outside edge. Continues to stay on this edge to bring the other guy's gun inside, make him have to head check out the other side every now and again, and takes his chance. Really smart.
Yeah, well done.
All right, you want to set this last point up? Talk about this car crash?
We can do that. Welcome, Thomas Taylor. Zinger PB. It does look like the gentleman who was defending the buzzer was out of paint. So
Yeah.
Zinger PB says they were both out of paint at that point, weren't they? We can assume. I don't know. I think the Tauntaun guy was kind of rolling his gun with that bait, but I can't really tell that well. But I love how this point goes on and goes down. Rather, this is this is well played by Scalp. I mean, you want to talk about winning the scramble? That's what this point is. And let's just let this one go a little bit.
But hang on, I wanted to say something about the paint. Like if you're in this situation and you're in a one-on-one and you are low on paint, you should just keep your gun pointed toward the outside edge of the spot toward the buzzer. Like where when you head check, if the guy's not right there, you should shoot a couple of paintballs. Don't let the guy just dip over and touch the buzzer. Like stay disciplined on the outside edge. And if you only have 10 balls, you better make sure all 10 are keeping that guy from getting the buzzer.
Right. Or on that guy.
Yeah. And if he's completely out of paint, kind of shame on him again. Like, don't run yourself completely out of paint.
Mm-hmm. All right. So 1:40 on the clock. Scalp has that. Was it Scalp that had the Kirill, what I call the Kirill run?
Yep.
To the center. And then, Malloy straight to the snake. They shot the snake on the break. They shot Axel on the break. Malloy goes straight to their snake. And here's the interesting thing. I don't think he produces much from there. Great play by Tauntauns to go dig him out. That guy's got to go. Malloy's got to go. So unfortunately, he lost some players behind him, and now I believe it's is it a 2? No, it's a 3-on-2.
Yeah.
At this point, in favor of Scalp.
Right.
The advantage goes to Scalp though because they have the snake side, and I love what this 2 behind the Scalp player does behind the 1 in the snake. He says, "Hey, this is where we're going. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to back you up. I'm going to roll your gun. You go. I don't care if you trade with the guy. I'm getting the buzzer." Look at this teamwork down in the lower portion of your bunker. He's just going to sit there and sit on top of the guy, let his partner crawl all the way. They left, they're contesting the Dorito side on the wire right out there. They're fighting each other. I mean, this is so well done. So they trade. He goes and gets the finish. Well done. And of course, you've got the Dorito player as the safety valve. Just incredible. Now, do I think that was choreographed? No, but I think that 2 for Scalp, that guy deserves a cookie. 100%. That was heads up play for him to push his guy down the snake and get it done. And good job on the Dorito side player for Scalp staying alive and holding up that Dorito player for Tauntauns. What a great match. Fun one to watch. You're thinking, Ryan. What are you thinking about? Yeah, it was the Malloy. It was the Malloy run for Scalp, not Malloy Kirill run. Of course, he gets shot, which I like. Right. I like that first launch to, hey, look at me. Because honestly, when you think about it, I almost feel like it was his job to draw a gun or 2.
Yeah, what I was backing it up for was to see like so this guy goes to the corner, right? And he's safe. I'm trying to figure out why he launched up the Dorito side instead of just staying. Like, I get it if you're at 20 seconds, maybe you're thinking, well, I'll go win the point down the Dorito side. But if I don't, maybe I don't want to leave them enough time left to go to go touch the buzzer. But I thought maybe he launched a little early. This is where I think him and whomever's in the tower, I think that's Colombo. They just like, hey, Colombo, you play heads up. I got the snake side, or Colombo, you take the snake side, and I'm going to play, heads up, and not let this happen, right? not let this middle guy just kind of run around wherever he wanted to go. I just thought that this was unnecessary. It's too far. He's too exposed. I thought if he stays back, maybe here so he can see down the wire in case that guy gets out. But I was trying to figure out maybe what he saw that that made him react the way that he did and jump all the way up into the Dorito 3 was still 40 seconds left in the point. I just thought maybe that was
40 seconds on the
I think
point.
That's a little much.
At that point, if you know the down count, it's two of it, and you're at 40 seconds, and I've got a tower and I'm in that Dorito 1. It's one of two thought processes, right? Hey, I'm gonna go try and steal this point, and then he gets there and he's like, oh, I can't, right? There's a body I didn't know about. And
also like if you understand the kill count and you know that you're 23 and there's 40 seconds left, at that point the decision
then I become this is just my opinion.
Yeah, let's go play for overtime, right? Like I tell my guys in situations like that in a tie game, there's a minute 30 left before the point starts. We're having that conversation in the pit. Hey, if we're up 2 bodies, let's try to go win the point, but let's win it with 10, 12 seconds left. If we are down bodies, take a break, take a breath. Let's try to even it back up, and if there's time left, let's go win the point. Otherwise, let's play for overtime. Right?
Yeah, let's get some data. Play for overtime. Let's get some data. Let's understand the situation these last 40 seconds, and let's not let them touch the buzzer.
I just thought maybe this was a little much.
Well, I think it's also a heads up play on. Again, I've got to go back to that 2 or that 3 player. This player made the right decision. Malloy has to go. He has to go. Untimely death in the Hertz bunker there. By in the Snakeside Tower for Tauntaun. But I like the way this home player thinks. He's like, well, surely those guns have been turned wide. And so he just decides to, you know what, this is where I need to go. And he just literally jogs all the way over to his snake player and joins him to be a force multiplier there. It's incredible. Maybe the Dorito player is telling the tower player, hey, you stay here, you be the safety valve. I'm going to go try and make something happen. So, there's so many different ways it could have gone down. But my guess is, for most part, Tauntauns didn't know the situation. He gets to Dorito 4. He goes, oops. Right?
Yeah.
So.
A little much. Take a breath there, fella.
And it's easy for you and I to say that after the point, right?
Totally.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. There's a lot of ways that could have gone, but I'm with you. I'm like, 40 seconds. It's 32. Or we don't know. We just know that, hey, we're down 3. If I don't know the kill count, but I know there's only one more of us, I'm probably a potted plant taking it in overtime. So.
Yeah, I just think there's a good learning opportunity there when the guys go back and watch film. One. And we talked about this even when we played the Russians in Texas, like don't allow Malloy to do Malloy stuff, keep him, we talked about this when we broke that game down a couple of weeks ago, don't let Malloy come to your side, right? Like you've got to at least make him respect the wire. If you don't, he's going to end up on your side of the field. And it's not necessarily that he can get to your side of the field and be really productive, but he can get to your side of the field and be really annoying. Does that make sense? Like he can just create.
A good way of putting it.
Yeah, he can create chaos without having to shoot anyone, right? Because he's in a space now where you can't move at all. You can't take any space that you may want to be in. Your close becomes incredibly challenging. And everybody gets really defensive. Their adrenaline goes up. And I talk about this a lot. Like when your adrenaline goes up, your brain shuts off, right? As soon as your adrenaline gets to a certain level, you can't think clearly, right? Your body goes into this fight or flight mode and you start making silly mistakes that you really shouldn't make. So you got to respect him down the wire and sorry, the Tauntauns guy, Axel, good Lord. Axel went away from him a couple times in the gunfight in the first point. Malloy plays him down the wire. Axel goes inside. He picks up on that. Malloy realizes like, oh, when I play him, he's going away, right? And I'm sure when they got back into the pit, Pascal, their coach of the Tauntauns, I'm sure was like, hey, you cannot go away. You got to just stay down the wire. And then he comes out, in point two, goes all the way to their end, with Axel alive. And at the point he gets to their end, Axel's even shooting down the wire, right? And can't see him. So really impressive finals match. Congratulations to Scalp. Brand new semi-pro team coming into league, very first professional event, come in and win it. I mean, you want to talk about a story. Like, if you are a semi-pro team in Europe and you watched that match, you've got to be excited about what your potential opportunity is. Now, I get it. Like, everybody doesn't have Malloy. Everybody doesn't have a Malloy. But really impressive to see what they've done as a group. I mean, again, came to America last year, played semi-pro, World Cup, did really well. Without Malloy, of course, who was playing in the pro division. Mm-hmm. But then add Malloy back, they go over and win their very first professional tournament ever. So congratulations to those guys. It's a big deal.
Really impressive. Really happy for them. And what a great, man. I would have loved to have been in that restaurant that night. That'd have been quite the scene, I'm sure. So
where do you find Skydstire?
Oh,
how do you spot one? Great question.
I just posted. So Doggy Dogger just posed a question in the chat, and I actually responded saying, "Does anyone from the PB community want to answer his question? Any advice?" Up on the screen, you see it. I have a question. Where do you guys find scouts to hire, and how do you spot one? Now, me personally, I have a scouting staff that helps me. We have a very detailed scouting book that we leverage and utilize. And, my first piece of advice to you would be, first of all, get someone that you trust. And two, get someone who are somewhat intelligent and know how to, know what they're looking at. And I would get more than one, right? Like, this guy's in charge of watching what went snake way, and the other guy's in charge of what went Dorito way, etc. Pay attention to what way they're shooting, pay attention to their secondaries, pay attention to, tendencies, etc. But I where you hire one, I don't know how you would do that. I would look locally. If your team has friends or family that can take over those types of things, you can also video matches on your phone or what have you, and then maybe go back and look at it and scout it yourself. So lots of ways.
What division? To do that. And what division do you play, Doggy Dogger? What division are we talking about? All right. I would say you don't play.
You don't play. Okay.
Yeah. So I would say, like, if you're anything less than really like semi-pro, you really don't need a scout. Like, you shouldn't really be concerned with what the other teams are doing as much as like what you're doing. Once you get to like semi-pro, then the scouting becomes a little more important, because you're going to play a lot of the same teams over and over and over again. Whereas in the majority of the other divisions, you may not see teams that until Sunday. So I don't think it's as important. And really, in the lower divisions, you should be creating game plans based on what your strengths are, and not trying to manipulate that too much based on what the other team is doing. When you get into the higher divisions, it gets a little bit different, again, because you're going to see teams a lot. So it's good to have data on them. Players, when you're going to see a player 5 to 7 times throughout the year between semis and ochos and quarters and whatever, and potentially even more, it's really good to have a lot of data on them, because you can pick up a lot of tendencies. Right. So, but in the lower divisions, I don't really think that that's as big a deal. I assume they dress like the crowd to blend in, right?
It's about execution. It's about execution and imposing your will in those divisions. And as far as dressing like the No, they're openly. No, it's not a secret. No hiring. You know, it's basically everyone's tracking everyone in the Pro
Yeah, I
Division.
mean, our
So
guy
you'll
wears
see
a
guys
Diesel
out there with
shirt, and
cameras and
yeah,
yeah, you know, so no big deal there. But
yep.
yes, no, I
The
agree,
Russians
Ryan. I
literally
believe
used to
it's more
set up
about
their own camera.
execution. That's right.
Yeah,
It's about
totally,
execution
totally.
and and imposing your will and leveraging your strengths and executing those strengths. So yeah.
Yeah. So next week we have a kick-ass show for you guys. We're going to have Kirill Peridny on. So we are going to talk
That's
Russian
right.
Legion. We are going to talk Red Wave. We are going to talk a little bit about his career kind of coming up. He is one of the most intelligent paintball players in the business. He is also a fantastic coach and just a wealth of knowledge as it relates to training. You got to keep in mind the Russians were literally the very first real professional paintball team, meaning they have their own compound. They all live together. They train together. I mean, it's a year-round thing for them. And they have, you know, just drills on drills on drills on drills on drills that they've been doing. And so we got a big one coming next week. It will be a lot of fun. So make sure you tune in. We will take some questions from you guys. The idea with this show wasn't really to be doing those kind of things. We've had to take kind of a step in a different direction while Jake Jones, who's our normal production specialist, has taken on a new job. And so we're doing a lot more of these live instead of post-production, which we like doing the lives, but we also like doing post-production because we love our families and like to spend some time with them. And it gets a little bit difficult to do this every single week. And then also Chicago Coaches Clinic. The link is in the description of the video. So if you're interested in signing up for that, we're going to cut it off at 30 spots. We've already got a couple, which is great. We know that event's a little ways away, but you want to start planning now. It's a really good idea. Click the link. It'll give you some information about what the costs and times and things like that. So it will be at 10 o'clock in the VIP. We'll use the Chicago Pro Field. We'll walk it together. We'll talk about event prep, how we prepare our teams, and some things too that Mike and I do differently, which I think is a big deal. So we say this a lot, like there's 100 ways to do this correctly, but there's a million ways to do it wrong, of course. So it's a good idea to jump in that when you can, because again, we will cut it off at 30 people. Anything else?
Yeah, post some questions for Kirill. Something in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And you know, I'm looking forward to talking to him. That's going to be a good. Anytime I get an opportunity to pick somebody's brain like that, oof, woo, I get excited. So looking forward to that, and of course, looking forward to you know, a couple of the coaches clinic. We had so much fun at the last coaches clinic. I felt it was a big success. I really enjoyed getting to meet and know everybody. I loved all the questions. I loved all the enthusiasm. So I'm looking forward to doing another one.
Yeah, Kirill is the way his brain works about paintball is so interesting. Like everything is in combinations. It's really, I don't want to give too much away, but it's so interesting. And we'll have him talk to you about sort of the Russian Legion practice routine and why they do what they do. Cause it's kind of a joke in professional paintball. If you guys, for some of you who don't know, like they'll play like when the layout comes out, they'll play for like 2 hours that day and then like 3 hours the next day and then like 3 hours the next day. And then you look at all the other teams and we're playing like 9 hours a day, right? Just grinding through, and they do it so well, right? They do, in my opinion, they do it correctly. They do it correctly. They do a few hours of training. They go home, they talk about it. They take the data that they got that day, they implement it in the next day. And they take, you know, it's like the old adage, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And so
one bite at a time.
I think the way they chunk it up is really good. So can't wait to get Kirill on here and kind of pick his brain. So yeah, if you guys have questions for him, put them in the chat. We'll make sure that they get looked at. Sorry, in the comments. Put them in the chat. It's going to go away as soon as we're done with this video. So put them in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Coaches Show. Thank you to Black Red Studios for the use of the video. Major League Paintball for all the support of the show. Jake Jones for all the production work, Alex Sorensen, Kevin Fillers, and Tom Cole. As always, this show has been brought to you by Max Sportswear. When needed, get Maxed. You can also click his link right below us, Kick-Ass Custom Gear. I'm Ryan Gray with Mike Bianca. As always, be responsible.